All right, students. So we were discussing barriers of communication, and we are already through with the first three major types. First one was semantic barriers. Second one was physical barriers. Third was organizational barriers. And today we are going to start with psychological barriers. Right. So these are the barriers which are, which have an association with um, our mind, our motives, values, and such things. So psychological barriers, they arise from motives, emotions, social values, different perceptions, etc. These create a psychological distance, cause misunderstanding among people at work, and hinder the communication process. So they also, they act as a barrier sometimes, and they cause misunderstanding among people. They can be at workplace or in any communication situation, right? And they hinders the process of communication. So under this first barrier that we are going to discuss is going to be selective perception. So selective perception is about we perceive, or we assume things about people, and it helps, uh, it does not help, basically it restricts the understanding of the other people, right? So our sensory receptors, they have their own limitations. As a result, we perceive not the whole spectrum, but few selective symbols based upon our needs, motives, experience, background, etc. As already explained, we do not see the reality as it is, but interpret what we see and call it reality. So, whatever we see, we think that that's the reality, and we start to interpret things according to that, and we feel that that is the reality. Because of our selective perceptions, we cannot communicate the whole, and because of different perceptions, neutral words conveying certain positive message convey the opposite meaning as they reach to the receiver. It results into misunderstandings and misinterpretations and makes the communication ineffective. So exact meaning is not reached to the receiver, so it generates misunderstandings and misinterpretation of the data and makes communication ineffective. Next is premature evaluation. Premature evaluation is all about when when somebody is trying to tell you something and you assume that you know everything that the person is going to tell, and on those basis, you tell the other person that you have already understood everything, and he can stop, he may stop explaining it to you. So in such a situation, it may happen that the other person hasn't given you the entire information yet, and you assume that you have understood the entire message, and this results into missing on to some sort of important information. So that is premature evaluation, when you evaluate things uh, before the time you should have done it. So it is human tendency that we try to evaluate quickly. हमारी आदत होती है कि हम बहुत फटाफट हम चीज़ों को इवेलुएट करके समझने की कोशिश करते हैं. वी डू नॉट लिसन और रीड द होल, but try to infer from certain part of the message. So if we have, somebody has just started telling us something, so after hearing that person for like listening to that person for a few minutes, we assume that we know about this thing, but actually what the other person wanted to tell was something else. Now you will tell that person कि ठीक है हम मुझे already ये चीज़ पता है, so the other person is also going to stop sharing that information with you, because he'll also feel that you already know this bit of information. So in such a situation, uh, what will happen is you won't get to know what the other person was trying to tell you exactly, right? And the other person will feel that he has already shared the things that he wanted to share, the the things or the information that he wanted to share with you. So the moment we try to evaluate, we stop further message visible to our sensitive receptors. As a result, effective communication does not take place because of premature evaluation. This barrier can be overcome by empathetic listening or suspending judgment for the time being. So you should, you know, try not to interrupt the person in between. Just listen to the person, even if you feel कि ठीक है मुझे ये already पता है या मैंने ये सुना हुआ है या I know this information already. So in such a situation, just wait, because maybe there might be some information in it that you didn't know. So try to be a patient listener, let the other person complete, and then evaluate that whether you knew everything or not, right? So, because if you won't listen, it is going to become a barrier. So, try not to, come out with your conclusions um, immediately after listening to something. Give the other person some time to explain the things to you, and after that, try to, evaluate it. Next is different comprehension of reality. So different people, they are going to have different opinions or different opinions or thoughts about different things, right? So for me, something might mean some, there is a thing. It's just like that when you see, when you write down the number 6 on the floor, for example. So person who is standing on one side is going to feel that that is 6. The person who is standing on the other side is going to feel that this is a 9. So both are correct, but it's just that there is a different point of view to that. So it's all about that. So reality is not an absolute concept. It is relative to different persons. So it depends on person to person. How do they, comprehend it? So each person has unique sensory receptors and mental filters. As a result, our abstractions, inferences, and evaluations are different. Abstraction is the process of focusing attention on specific details and in ignoring others. So in abstraction, what you do is you focus and you give attention to specific details and ignore the other things. Due to abstraction, we fail to comprehend the situation as a whole, and we even fail to understand our other person's point of view as we think ourselves right. So हमने एक information सुन के हम बस उसी के ऊपर focus करते हैं, concentrate करते हैं, and we just try to ignore the rest of the things. So in addition to different abstractions, our inferences, things beyond verifiable and confirmed facts, are different. For example, one person told the other that he would leave by a specific train. The other person infers his arrival at the station at the right time of train. It may prove to be correct or wrong. In the same manner, we infer beyond facts. So हम facts के beyond जब सोचते हैं and we try to calculate the things, that is what? That is inferences. If our inferences are different, communication gap will be there. So we try to assume things. So basically, it's all about how you take things and how you perceive their meanings, and it can be both. It can be right for you, it can be wrong for you as well. So it just depends upon you that how you comprehend the reality, how you comprehend the things which are being communicated to you. Next is attitude of superiors. So the general attitude of the superiors about communication affects the flow of communication. So उनका जो attitude है जो हमसे superior है, that is going to affect the flow of communication. If the superiors are afraid of delegating authority and lack confidence in themselves as well as in their subordinates, they will obviously try to conceal, color or filter the information. If they are not confident, अगर उनको लग रहा है कि वो अच्छे से अथॉरिटेटिवली ये काम नहीं कर पाएंगी या उनको अपने अंडर जो उनके सबॉर्डिनेट्स हैं that you do not trust them, you cannot have faith on them with some sort of information or task. So here there is going to be a problem. So they intentionally do so to twist the situation to their favor or to mask their weakness. So the superiors, they can change or manipulate the information according to their benefit, and uh, they can mask up their weaknesses according to that. So they'll always be they'll always have this advantage with them that they can manipulate and change the information at any point in time. Then the attitude of subordinates. The negative attitude of subordinates also affect the communication flow. Their inferiority complexes, unwillingness to share information or and fear of action are the obvious barriers to communication. So the people who are subordinates, उनका attitude भी जो है, that it can act as a barrier, it can act as a problem, because they might have inferiority complex, or they won't share their creative ideas or information with their superiors for some sort of reason. So that can become a problem here. So under such situations, organizational communication becomes ineffective. So even if you are trying to communicate something important, the communication flow is going to become, ineffective. So the attitude of subordinates and the attitude of superior, the both can act as a barrier in the process of communication. Next is poor listening. So we have talked about it many times before that listening is very important part of the process of communication, because it is very important to listen to the other person before responding to have a very effective communication, right? So, poor listening is one of the psychological barriers in the effective communication. Most of the people just hear and do not listen attentively. So, there is a difference between hearing and listening. So hearing is, there are lots of noises which are, coming into our, हमें सुनाई दे रही है basically. So we are just hearing those things. But जिस चीज़ के ऊपर, अब जिस voice के ऊपर या जिस sound के ऊपर हम attention pay करेंगे, तो वो क्या होगा? That is going to convert from, hearing to listening, because you are trying to uh, put in an effort over here. You're trying to concentrate, and you're trying to focus on the things which are being said. So that is the difference between hearing and listening. So you should always try to listen, and that too with full concentration. So if they listen selectively, taking the desired part and ignoring the undesired part of the message. They do not listen to what the other is saying, but what they want to listen. Poor listening retards the communication flow and prevents understanding of the real meaning. So first thing is that उनके कान में नहीं जा रही है information. Second thing is that they do not want to listen to something. So that means that they have poor listening skills. And the flow of communication is going to depend upon your listening skills. That how do you listen to that information and how do you respond to it. Next, we have egotism. Egotism is diametrically opposite to transmission of understanding. The most vital aspect of communication, the self centered persons think that their own ideas are more important and others are wrong. So, ego की problem नहीं आनी चाहिए when you are communicating, because it is also going to act as a barrier. So, don't just give importance to your own ideas, don't be very selfish, try to give importance to some other person's effort. Try to give try to acknowledge the efforts made by the other person and appreciate their ideas. So you should not always talk about yourself. Try to talk about other people and try to make sure that they feel a part of the organization. So such people are very bad listeners. They keep their minds closed and alienate from the people with whom they work. So they are very close minded. They won't uh, think beyond a a specific, or beyond a parameter. They are not going to think about other things. They'll be only concerned about themselves and their work. So, if a person wants other people to understand him, he has to understand them. So, it is a mutual process. You have to listen to the other person where the other person is trying to listen to you. So, it's from both the sides. Such level of understanding diminishes with egotism, and as a result, the communication process is hindered. So, try to listen, even if there is a conflict of opinion between you two. आप दोनों में कोई भी the ideas are not matching, or you don't feel about something the same way. You have different opinions, you have different thoughts about something. Try to respect the other person's opinion, and don't just try to portray as if only you know the entire thing and your opinion matters and things like that. So egotism की problem जो है वो नहीं आनी चाहिए है communication की process में. Last one under psychological barriers is emotions. So emotions भी जो है हमारी communication की process को it restricts or hinders the process of communication. Because you must have seen that कि आप जब भी emotional होते हो, if you are very happy about something or you're very sad, you're feeling upset, you're feeling low about something, so you most of the times you fall short of words. You just you say that you are so happy that you don't know how to explain this feeling into words, or you are just so sad that you don't know what to say. So that is what that is. Emotions are acting as a barrier in the process of communication. You're thinking, you're feeling 100 things at the moment, but you are unable to express it, and that's because of the emotions. So positive emotions such as love, affection, and compassion smoothens the flow of communication, whereas negative emotions such as hatred, anger, anxiety obstruct the communication process. सो पॉजिटिव इमोशंस हमें हेल्प करती है कि हमारा जो कम्युनिकेशन फ्लो है वो बहुत स्मूथ और इजीली फ्लो करता रहे. ऑन द अदर हैंड नेगेटिव इमोशंस सच एज हेट्रेड, एंजाइटी, एंगर, they obstruct they obstruct the process of communication. ये उसकी process को रोकते हैं. So excited, nervous, afraid, and perplexed individuals cannot think rationally and consequently transmit their negativity to others. So ये सारे जो emotions हैं ये आपको rationally think करने से रोकती हैं, and consequently they transmit their you if you're feeling something, some sort of negative emotion, you will have the tendency to transmit it to the other person, and that person will start feeling the same way. So they cannot receive the message as it is. Therefore, effective communication requires a soothed heart and a silent mind. So emotions को आपको बीच में नहीं आने देना चाहिए. If you're feeling very emotional, try to relax yourself and try to think very rationally. So that is going to help you. So this is just a review of the chapter. So communication is complete when the message is conveyed in the same sense and spirit that sender intends to convey. So this is the most important part about communication. Communication is not about speaking a language. It is not about communicating a message. It's about conveying it in such a manner that it becomes very easy for the other person to listen to it and understand it, and then the meaning that the receiver is going to understand is the same what the sender was trying to communicate. But it does not happen because of some barriers which are classified as semantic, physical, organizational, and psychological. Semantic barriers are concerned with the problems and obstructions in the process of encoding and decoding. These include different language, different context, and different words and poor vocabulary. Physical barriers include noise, improper time, and distance, and improper load of information. So, organizational barriers include rigid organizational rules, wrong choice of channel, and formal organizational relationship, etc. Lastly, the psychological barriers include selective perception, premature evaluation, wrong attitude of superior and subordinate, egotism, and negative emotions, etc. And to overcome communication barriers, one should be conscious about one's perception, um, be patient and empathetic listener, create synergistic, that means very healthy environment for communication, uh, convey emotional contents of the message, use appropriate language, use proper channel of communication, encourage open communication, ensure two-way communication, and make best use of your body language. So ये सारे क्या है? That's a sort of review of the entire chapter. I hope you have understood each and everything. Is there any doubts with anyone? किसी को कोई डाउट है बच्चे? All right. So with this, we have finished up our the topic that is barriers of communication. All right.